Yeah, I'm about to get up in this one's ass. I have for a very long time had a gripe with people who like to look at alternate history, people who reimagine things. There are enough disgusting things in many cultures across the world concerning human behavior. It's not limited to one race. It's not limited to one region or one gender, to be perfectly honest. And you can pick and choose those things, and you can dissect them, you can delve through them, you can garner wisdom from them, and most especially what you should do is learn how not to treat one another across the world, depending upon how we have done things in the past. Learn from the past. But there are people out there that like to cherry pick the past. You know, they have certain narratives they want to run with, and they present those narratives all the time. It's been happening to me for decades. It's happening around me for decades, and one of those things is a particular subject of mine that I really enjoy. Egypt. I love Egypt. I love the whole story of Egypt. I think that story is incomplete. I think that maybe has been fudged here and there. As far as the archaeologists and historians, I don't know why. Could be due to their hubris. Could be due to their ego. Whatever the case may be, the story of Egypt, as it sits now, is still a very fascinating subject. All of the different gods, the cultures, the different types of people that have run Egypt. I look at it like the ancient melting pot of the world. It's one of my favorite subjects of all. A lot of people in the last, at least from what I can see in the last 20 years, they always run with this this idea that because of where Egypt is located, which is the Middle East, they claim it's Africa, and then they say, well, it was always black people, and black people always ran the place, and that was like, Egypt was our accomplishments, black accomplishments, African accomplishments that were torn down or torn asunder or appropriated or whatever or whatnot. When the truth of the matter is, and I'm not trying to be biased against anyone's culture, anywhere, any group of any person in the world, because depending on where you evolved, depends on how you evolved. Whatever technologies became available to you, if those technologies even survived, because there have been times in history where there have been apexes of technological development that have fallen due to war, famine, just cultures being wiped out for whatever reason. Technologies and so forth have risen and fallen all throughout history until we finally got to our modern era, at least in the way that we tell recorded history, to where we've been able to constantly develop and innovate on top of past technological achievements. Egypt is the melting pot of the ancient world. As history sits, we know that Egypt eventually became a province of the Roman Empire, but before that happened, one of the descendants of the Macedonians, the descendant of a general, or Alexander the Great, was the last ruler of Egypt. A woman by the name of Cleopatra. She was a Greek. Lots of different cultures had impacts on this melting pot of Egypt over thousands of years. And you would know these things if you did a little bit of research. Just a little bit of research. I think that Egypt, in my opinion, is one of those ancient civilizations that's gone through many different changes, many eras. It was run by Persians at one time. It is one of those areas of history that all of us can come together on and say, yeah, we accomplished that. We were a part of that. By extension, if you're European, if you're North African, if you're Middle Eastern, We all have a piece of that. All of our cultures are tied to this place. We should be proud of those achievements. We should be proud of what was taking place. Was it all fair? No. Was it all good? No. But you show me which country in the world has had a perfect record, in whether it's the modern or the ancient world. It's one of those things we should all be able to go, yeah, that was a cool time period. A lot of the themes that we share today came from that time period in history. Egypt is a land of rich culture and history to all of humanity, in my opinion. But unfortunately, we have these people that subscribe to a certain philosophy, a certain ideology, and it usually centers around this word called woke. I've never been a fan of the term woke. There are some people that use it in a positive way, and I've even been called woke myself by some of my friends. Well, not some, one or two of my friends. I took it as a compliment. Because I understood how the person was trying to use it, but I'm not really a fan of that word, because I believe it means biased alternate history, not factual feeling. I don't believe it has anything to do with fact. A lot of people are coming at Gal Gadot, which is insane. This is insane. She's doing a film about Cleopatra. It's going to have a woman director. It's going to be from the woman's perspective. And frankly, to be honest, rightfully so. That is a story from the ancient world that I don't mind having a woman's perspective on. There's definitely two sides to that coin, because she was a hell of a manipulator. She used her beauty and power and influence to manipulate and control. But then again, when you're a leader, you use every means at your disposal, especially in the ancient world. I think the idea of this film is for like intersectional feminism, whatever the hell that word. Yeah, I think it's supposed to be like a feminist film, woman empowerment, stuff like that, which I have no problem with female-centric stories. I have no problem with celebrating femininity or heroines or historical figures of the opposite sex of myself. I have no problem with that. I like some of those stories. I think it's something that should be celebrated. We all should be celebrated at one time or another. These wonderful people of our past, these people who have influenced us, whose names have echoed through the ages. No problem with that. But I think that maybe what they're going for is that woke angle. And this is the thing. Far leftists eat themselves. They have no problem. They come right after one another. There is no unity among them. It's the Oppression Olympics. And so the Oppression Olympics began as soon as this announcement came out, because the woke narrative for decades, at least as long as I've been alive, the woke narrative for decades is Egypt is black. Egypt is African. It's always been African. It's always black people sitting on the throne. It's always black people. No, it ain't. Sorry, boo. It's not. It was a melting pot, had a lot of different cultural influences, the Middle East, North Africa, and Europe. Now, I'm not a person who likes to use the umbrella term white. I think it's racist in and of itself. I don't think that my brothers from Scotland are like my brothers from Czechoslovakia. There's a lot of different cultures in Europe. They're not uniform. It's not all the same, because you have a myopic point of view, because you can't see outside of your lane, because your perspective is thin. Does not mean that the rest of the world is as thin and brittle as your perspective. Egypt has not always been run by what you would call black people. It's been run by a lot of different variations of people, from dark skin to light skin. It is what it is. And when you encounter people who are usually fighting for that, Egypt's always been black perspective, it's from someone who feels bad about themselves, who has some kind of insecurity complex, who is just hateful and racist. If you look at the evidence, the facts, they are in complete, stark contradiction to that belief. Now, if you go to certain time periods within ancient Egypt, that statement is absolutely valid. When the Nubians were running Egypt, yeah, probably. But it was always a melting pot. There was always trade coming through Egypt. Look at where it was positioned within the ancient world. It was the breadbasket of the Roman Empire. It has been influential in every tale. There are stories about Egypt in the Old Testament, for God's sakes. You know what I mean? Like this is a part of our cultural fabric, and I'm not trying to get religious, but the Old Testament is an ancient text. It's a very ancient religious text. It's one of the oldest religions on the planet, Judaism. So these are ties that bind us together, but people would rather use them to divide us, to separate us, than look at the impact, the beauty, the wonder of this nation that tied so many different parts of the ancient world together, that tie us together, that show us we are more similar than different. Not to SJWs. Data Racer 117. Hail! Data Racer 117 goes into the Twitter trenches and collects for us some of the most disgusting behaviors on the internet. Hail, my brother. He's probably going to be mentioned in every single one of the Fandom Menace volumes because I'm going to be using quotes from Data Racer or excerpts that Data Racer has given us of SJWs all throughout the volume. So, hail, brother. Thank you so much. You're part of this project, and you will always get credit for being a part of my books. Data Racer says Gal Gadot is receiving harassment for being cast as Cleopatra. SJWs are calling her a dumb white biatch and a piece of shit. I don't even want to say that word. Woke culture is being anti-Semitic while not knowing Cleopatra was Greek. And here we have the tweet from Gal Gadot. I love embarking on new journeys. I love the excitement of new projects, the thrill of bringing this new stories to life. Cleopatra is a story I wanted to tell for a very long time. Can't be more grateful about this A-team. For God's sakes, first off, Gal she's Israeli, right? She's Jewish. Like that's a part of her heritage, that part of the world. Her ancient ancestors interacted with the Egyptians. Some of them may have even been Egyptians. The melting pot in that area of the world, the Middle East, is just so rich with history, and it's a binding fabric between Eurasia, Asia, Europe, just the entire ancient world. Cleopatra epic to reteam Wonder Woman's Gal Gadot with Patty Jenkins. Paramount wins wild auction. So like we're going to see a female-centric film. It's going to be from a female perspective, and concerning the topic at hand, it's more than valid. It's something I'm looking forward to. I hope it's I hope it's not woke, but like anything to do with Egypt, I'm down. I'm down to check out. I want to see this. This is something I'm interested in seeing. But unfortunately, SJWs are having a shift because SJWs are uneducated, or, and I don't even know which is worse, honestly, or they're willfully ignorant, right? Because if you're just uneducated, if you're just a fool, then, you kind of have an excuse, I guess. You're an idiot. You're a moron. But if you are educated and still propagating this type of BS, then you are worse. You're worse. Please don't breed. Check out. To go move to an island somewhere and, do not have contact with anyone that you could possibly procreate with ever again. I don't want you in humanity and human society. I want your free speech, though. I want you to have free speech. I want you to be able to express your nonsense so that we can point right to you and say, that's a moron. A lot of these I'm not even going to read. I'm going to leave them up on screen and let you check them out. I hope they're big enough for you to check out. It's pretty disgusting. It's just this is your CBS All Access Star Trek audience. This is your Disney Star Wars audience. This is your BBC Doctor Who audience. This is your Ghostbusters 2016 audience. This is your woke audience. These are the guys who agree with game journos, who attack their fans or attack customers. These are the people who celebrate, your bigots in the comics industry. This is it. These are the people that are radically voting for Biden, just simply because it's a Democrat and not thinking things through as to all the candidates on the field. This is who this is, right? No hate to anybody out there of common sense who feels that Joe Biden is a better candidate. I'm not trying to get into politics. You do you, boo. You vote. A lot of people died for your right to vote, and you vote. But this anti-Semitism is probably one of, just in my opinion, hatred against pagans is one of the most accepted bigotries out there. It's perfectly acceptable, if you're not, and even if you're a member of the big three, the Abraham religions, and you're not a part of the right faction of that specific Abraham religion, at least concerning at least concerning the children of Judaism, you can even take heat. You can even, come at one another and with deadly means. Anti-Semitism is an approved form of bigotry. Has been for a very long time. I think we know that through the pages of history and what we have seen certain groups do to Jewish members of their population, same way that they have treated pagans. It's an accepted form of bigotry. You can talk junk all day and all night about witches and it don't matter. Same thing with Jews. It's disgusting behavior that I'd hope we had moved past, that I hope we were moving forward into the future, and it didn't matter if you believed in a sky daddy or an earth mommy, or whether you didn't, or how you decided to worship in any of those things, and it harmed none. Do as thou will. That's how I feel. But there are still people out there who are very hateful, who for no other reason than to be able to point the finger at another group of people and blame them for your problems or for society's problems, that still do this. People like your woke narrative people that don't care about history. It's feelings over facts. They don't give a damn about how their words may impact another. This one specifically is the one I wanted to get to. This is Justina Ireland. And she says, I mean, and shows a picture of somebody from Black Panther. Stop casting. And underneath, Alina, stop casting white women to play black Middle Eastern roles. Cleopatra was not white. Cleopatra was Macedonian. She was Greek. I believe that falls under the white umbrella. The European umbrella. Like I said, I don't like using the term white because a person from Greece, any part of Greece, there's subcultures in Greece, are not going to be like people from Russia or the Ukraine. Different types of people. These are different types of people. Stop being so racist and just saying white. We should stop being racist and just saying black. This right here, this stupidity. Bunch of just racist, awful, uneducated, terrible, misinformed, woke mother effers out here. Anti-Semitic jerk-offs. These are the worst people in society. This is why I'm writing the Fandom Menace volumes. This is why Jesse Milestone of Mindless Entertainment has contributed a chapter to the Fandom Menace Volume 2 speaking about anti-Semitism in entertainments and how it's an accepted form of bigotry from the perspective of a Jewish woman. Thank you, Jesse, for being a part of this project. I think it's a very important statement in the age of hashtag punch a Nazi, when you could just call anyone that term, which you imagine how impactful that is. Look, just as myself, you guys know I'm a pagan cat. There was a time in my early life when I was learning about the history of my peoples, and I didn't like seeing a church because it represented people. It represented death to me. Now I've grown up since then, and I've learned to understand different perspectives, and I even embrace some of my Judeo-Christian values that were imparted to me by my Christian parents and members of my family. Been able to find that middle ground. You don't have to hold on to hate for your entire life. We all come from this earth. And this argument in and of itself, Cleopatra was a light-skinned woman. She was a light-skinned woman. She was Greek. This is what it is. Olive skin, possibly, What does it matter? It matters how we tell history. It matters because those facts are representative of where we came from. Egypt is one of the binding threads of the ancient world. It's one of those places. I mean, that entire region. What entire region is a part of the fabric of who we are today. It tells a story of how we grew together, how we fought with one another over different ideas, how cultures grew, and then there's lessons there, good and bad. What we can learn, what we can take from people working together, the wisdom we can take away from how people treated one another, negative and positive. But this woke narrative is complete and utter garbage. It's just complete garbage. If you want to celebrate a black pharaoh, then go to a time in Egypt when there was a black pharaoh, because there was. There were Persian pharaohs, Nubians, and Macedonians. There's a whole different groups of people that were involved in the thousands of years of history that we have in ancient Egypt. One of the most interesting times in the ancient world. So now I'm going to go on a little personal pitch for a moment, and if you guys are still here, I appreciate it. One of the reasons that I'm writing the Fandom Menace volumes is not just to celebrate the pushback against woke entertainments, against people taking our modern mythologies and misusing them, appropriating them to push their political garbage, division, hate, segregation, bigotry, racism, sexism, like every negative thing you could possibly think that these woke tards in Hollywood, these privileged millionaires and the people that support them, that just keep perpetuating for no other reason than to divide us, than to rewrite history, to use words completely out of context, or use words like racism or sexism too much, words that should have an impact. When accusations like that are made, they should be taken note of. But unfortunately, because of these uneducated morons, because of these ideological extremists, from top to bottom, and Hollywood down to the woke-tards that support them, they are trying to take our history and our ancient history. If you all seen that Medusa statue with Medusa carrying the head of Perseus, and they're putting it up in New York because of Me Too. What is going on? We need to stand together and fight this. We need to stand together, all walks of life, as we have been doing for the last several years, fighting for our modern myths, and engage in this. We can't be everywhere at once. Can't be in every aspect of this culture war that we can, but we can, those of us that are a part of geek culture and have been since we were, the first time we can remember watching Star Wars or Star Trek or any anime or whatever it is. We all need to come together, stand together, stop this wokeness, stop this bullshit. It's about division. It's about creating hate. It's about dividing us. And as geeks and nerds, my friends, we should know all about what it's like to be ostracized. We should know exactly what it's like to be told that we're just a nerd because we enjoy a comic book or a cartoon or a movie. We take these characters to heart. We fall in love with them. They become a part of the fabric of who we are. We learn lessons about heroism and compassion from these characters and redemption. These our modern mythologies are very important. Please help me by backing the Fandom Menace Volume 2, Rise of the Rebellion, spreading the word, putting links out there, sharing it out. I'd really appreciate it. I don't have an industry to support me, and as a matter of fact, people like this are fighting me, trying to hold us down while using our myths to beat people over the head with misinformation, division, and hate. I have a certain love in my heart for Egyptology. I just love that part of the world. I adore some of the myths. I think that they're part of the fabric of our religion. If you really look at the Egyptian Book of the Dead, you can see how influential it was to possibly, and most likely, even your belief system. I'm not trying to invalidate anyone's God because I am a believer myself in the divine, and I appreciate all aspects of the divine, how everyone sees them, but the fingers of God have reached into many different areas of the world, and they intertwine. They intertwine into a fabric that brings us all together. It's a universe, so there are some truths that are universal. And in my mind, one of those truths is Egypt being a part of the world that was a unifier, that brought us together. That is a unifier that should bring us together. We should be able to look at this thousands of years spans of many different dynasties and achievements that are made up of different cultures and types of people, whether it was through migration or war, that really showed what happens when we work together with one another. So influential. Let's not tarnish the beauty of that history with our own prejudices. Facts may change, evidence may change, and when it does, we should take steps to change our perspectives. But as it stands right now, and I think it's pretty solid, Cleopatra was Greek, and there's no problem, in my opinion, with someone with the skin tone of Gal Gadot, who comes from the Middle East, probably had about the same skin tone as Cleopatra. There should be no problem here. This is an example of people that just get outraged to be outraged, want to distort history to fit their narrative, and want to be evil and toxic and nasty and create division and hate. And I have to ask you, Hollywood, those of you in Hollywood who still have a fully functional brain, are you okay supporting these types of fandoms? Because these are the types of fandoms that you have generated by allowing this woke rhetoric in our entertainments. Thank you guys very much for being here. Please like, comment, subscribe, share the video out. I don't have an industry. I only have you. I am author Stephen Walton, the Fandom Menace historian. Your historian, born in the chats of the High Council with my brothers and sisters fighting for our modern mythologies. Wash your hands. Wash your ass. Be good to each other. Peace.
The main thing is to protect these characters. Make sure that they still continue to live in the way that you created them. and that the universe of Star Wars continues to grow.
By 2018, far-left extremists in Hollywood had been perverting long-established, profitable science fiction properties as platforms to espouse divisive social propaganda. The vision of these creatives was to repurpose established franchises in the hopes of indoctrinating viewers into the bigoted groupthink of the American far-left ideology. Insanely wealthy producers and adult pretenders set to shame any fan who would not capitulate to their false narratives of virtue, using long-established weight in the legacy media to drive online hate mobs to attack any who dared speak against the woke narrative. Yet there were those who would not kneel before this oligarchy of money, media, and extremism. Those who had known the truth. Fandom is for everyone. The Fandom Menace Volume 2 covers the events of the year 2018 as a group of independent creators rose up together, inspiring the Star Wars fandom to speak out against the flagrant misuse of a property that was not meant to inspire division, but hope. Volume 2 will cover the voices who spoke out against cancel culture, such as the Gospel According to Mark with a C.
Thank God for Star Wars fans. If only Ryan Johnson had said the same thing.
Mecha Random 42.
Star Trek, to me, is a hopeful, optimistic view of the future.
With chapters written by Stephanie Janicek, Smuggler's Cantina.
They're not answering any questions that the real fans want to know.
Jesse Milestone of Mindless Entertainment.
And I'm going to warn you right now, this here thing you're about to watch is probably going to involve a lot of yelling and a decent amount of swearing.
Itchy Baka of Disney Star Wars is dumb.
But this doesn't explain why, after Disney's acquisition of Star Wars, George would attend the premieres of The Force Awakens, Rogue One, The Last Jedi, and Solo.
And the Overlord himself, Dictor Van Doomcock.
Greetings, my friends. Our pop culture is under assault by corporations who would rather destroy our cultural heritage than build respectfully upon it.
This is an historical documentation of a group of people in the late 2000 teens who would not bow to the very worst in humanity, seeking to separate us along political lines while using our beloved modern mythologies to do so. They did not kneel. Will you? The Fandom Menace Volume 2, Rise of the Rebellion.